What if the most powerful tool for transformation wasn't something external, like knowledge or discipline, but something that you already possess? What if it was your ability to imagine? Think about it for a moment. Every breakthrough in your life, every dream that pulled you forward, every moment you dared to think differently began with imagination. It's the wellspring of all possibilities, the quiet foundation beneath every step of inner work. How often do we overlook its power, dismissing it as fantasy or escapism? And yet, what could be more real than its ability to shape your inner and outer world? I'm Mark Roach. Welcome to Transcendent, where we step beyond the surface and into the deeper realms of personal growth. This platform reflects my own wild and intricate path, one marked by steep challenges, expansive lessons, and the voices of mystics, thinkers, and guides from across the globe. Today, we're exploring an essential and often misunderstood concept in spiritual development as expounded by Maurice Nicoll in his Psychological Commentaries, Volume 4. This episode springs from Nicoll's September 2nd, 1950 transcript, where he examines the role imagination can play in true inner work, infused with the insights of Carl Jung's depth psychology, Peter Ouspensky's structured teachings, and George Gurdjieff's fierce brilliance. Nicoll opens a door to how imagination can guide us and transform us. For so many of us, imagination is something we associate with childhood. It's what we leave behind when reality comes calling. But Nicoll urges us to claim it, not as a form of escape, but as the very process through our inner change becomes possible. He views imagination not as idle daydreaming, but as an active force, a creative process that pushes boundaries and brings an intangible into form. True imagination, as Nicoll describes it, is far removed from fantasy. It involves conscious effort, deliberate focus, and an openness to letting go of preconceived limitations. Without it, our inner process, our inner work can become mechanical, lifeless, dogmatic, and rigid. When Nicoll discusses imagination, he emphasizes how it acts like a bridge between what is and what could be. Imagine, for example, being stuck in a repetitive pattern of thought or behavior. It feels like nothing will change, as though we're sealed within these limitations or this prison. Without imagination, there's no way out of that loop. But when you dare to envision something different, when you picture the possibility of yourself beyond those limits, transformation begins. This act of envisioning isn't passive. It's the first active step in breaking through inertia. One of Nicoll's key ideas is the difference between passive imagination and active imagination. Passive imagination allows the mind to wander aimlessly, pulled by distraction or fantasies that serve no purpose beyond fleeting amusement. Active imagination, on the other hand, is deliberate and intentional. It's a practice of focusing your inner vision on what matters most. This type of imagination is aligned with work on yourself, a process that's both deeply personal and profoundly creative. Nicoll connects these ideas to Gurdjieff's teachings on self-remembering. For those unfamiliar, self-remembering is the act of being fully present with yourself, observing without judgment, and seeing yourself as you truly are. But how can you begin to change what you observe? That's where imagination enters. You might see, for example, that you often react to criticism defensively, shutting down or lashing out. Active imagination invites you to mentally rehearse a new way of responding, one guided by reflection instead of reflex. By imagining yourself pausing, listening, and truly engaging with another, you begin to build the capacity to practice that in real life. Another profound area where imagination shines is in seeing others. Nicole writes about how we often reduce people to fixed roles or labels in our minds. But true relationships require imagination, the ability to envision the complexities that others and their potential beyond what's immediately visible. Without this quality, our connections remain shallow, transactional, and ultimately unfulfilling. When we imagine more fully who someone could be, we're not constructing a false narrative, we're allowing empathy to flourish. This too is part of the inner work. Where Nicole's ideas on imagination really resonate for me is their application to our understanding of higher influences. He, like Gurdjieff and Ouspensky before him, believed that inner work involves opening ourselves to something beyond the rational, beyond what logic alone can grasp. If we're locked into a purely intellectual way of engaging with growth, we miss out on what is larger and more transcendent. Imagination, it's the entry point to that something more. Through it, we begin to sense the presence of higher forces, whether you call them divine, universal, or simply unknown. This isn't blind faith, it's an experience grounded in exploration. Nicole also warns against the dangers of misusing imagination. When applied without awareness, it can lead to illusions and self-deception. We've all seen how people, in the absence of conscious intent, fabricate stories to protect their ego and reinforce their perspective. This is a misuse of imagination, one that traps us rather than frees us. The anecdote, Nicole insists, is self-honesty. Without it, imagination loses its value as a tool for growth. What I find beautiful about Nicole's teaching is the way that he gives us permission for creativity to be part of the spiritual path. Often we think of inner work as serious, disciplined, and precise. And yes, it requires significant commitment, but it's also alive, fluid, and inventive. It asks us to engage with our entire being, including the parts that dream, wonder, and play. Imagination brings color and texture to what could otherwise feel like a grayscale process. To ground this concept practically, consider this exercise that Nicole suggests. He asks us to spend time each day considering, consciously imagining our higher self, not as an abstraction or an unreachable goal, but as a vivid presence. What would it look like? How would it walk, speak, and carry itself? How would it respond to life's challenges? This isn't about creating a fictional character, but about painting the most authentic picture of yourself that you can, free from the limitations of fear or conditioning. By holding that image in your mind, you begin to adjust your actions and choices to align with it. It's giving your inner compass a clearer direction to follow. Imagination used this way sees ourselves. It reshapes our reality. Nicole reminds us that inner work is never just internal. The changes that we make within ripple outward, altering how we engage with the world and how the world responds to us. It's not magical thinking, it's the natural consequence of heightened awareness and intentional action. Nicole's focus on imagination is a vital element in our inner work. It's both humbling and empowering. It asks us to take responsibility for the way that we think and envision. to become conscious stewards of a profound ability that we often take for granted. A life enriched by this kind of imagination is not only more fulfilling, but also more connected to ourselves, to others, and to the vast mystery and to the vast mysterious flow of existence around us. I invite you to reclaim your imagination, not as a retreat, but as a way, a tool to move forward. Challenge yourself to see the extraordinary within the ordinary, to imagine a better version of yourself and your relationships, and to trust that what you envision is already taking shape. Because imagination is more than dreaming, it's creating. I'm Mark Roach. This is Transcendent. Wishing you all the best.